The discovery, the fluorescent lights of TechCore Industries hummed softly in the empty corridors of downtown Chicago. It was 11:47 p.m. Derek Monroe pushed his cleaning cart down the marble hallway of the 22nd floor, whistling an old jazz tune his father used to play. His navy blue uniform was spotless, pressed with care despite being worn and faded at the edges. At 28, Derek had the kind of face that made people underestimate him: gentle brown eyes, an easy smile, and hands that moved with unexpected grace as he wiped down conference tables and emptied. Most people never noticed janitors. Derek preferred it that way. In the silence of the night shift, there were no questions, no curious stares, no one asking about his past. Just him, the soft swish of his mop, and the city lights glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows like scattered diamonds. Tonight, however, someone was noticing. The CEO, who couldn't sleep 20 floors above. Amanda Brooks sat at her executive desk, rubbing her tired eyes. At 42, she had built TechCore from a small startup into a billion-dollar software empire. But lately, sleep had become a distant memory. The company was preparing for a major merger, and the stress had transformed her into a permanent resident of her office. She reached for her cold coffee and accidentally knocked over a stack of reports. Papers scattered across her desk, and one particular document caught her eye. It was a payroll summary her assistant had left for review. It's flagged with a yellow sticky note that read, "Unusual activity. Thought you should see this." Amanda pulled the document closer. Employee name, Derek Monroe. Position, janitorial services. Night shift. Monthly salary, $2,800. But what made her pause was the series of recurring transactions listed below. Every single payday, $2,200 was automatically transferred to St. Michael's Children's Hospital. Not as a tax-deductible donation through proper channels, but as a direct personal payment. She frowned, calculating quickly in her mind. That left Derek with just $600 a month to live on. In Chicago, one of the most expensive cities in America, it's impossible, she murmured to herself. Rent alone in this city would consume that amount. The investigation begins the next morning. Amanda called Jessica Park, the head of human resources, into her office. Jessica arrived with her tablet and her usual efficiency, her black hair pulled into a professional bun. "Tell me about Derek Monroe," Amanda said without preamble. Sliding the payroll report across her desk, Jessica glanced at it, her expression neutral. "Night janitor, been with us for almost 3 years. Perfect attendance. Never a single complaint." "Why do you ask?" "Look at his transactions." Jessica's eyes widened as she scanned the numbers. "Oh, that's unusual. Maybe it's a mistake in the system." "For 3 years straight? Every payment like clockwork?" Amanda shook her head. "I want to know more about him. Background check, references, anything we have on file." Jessica hesitated. "With all due respect, Amanda, is this really worth your time?" "We're in the middle of the merger talks." Amanda leaned back in her chair, studying the ceiling. She couldn't explain why this mattered to her. Maybe it was because in a company of 3,000 employees, she had forgotten that real people worked here, people with stories beyond their job descriptions. Or maybe it was because someone earning barely above minimum wage was displaying more generosity than she had shown in years. Despite her wealth, "Just get me the file," Amanda said quietly. What the records revealed by afternoon, Jessica returned with a thin folder. Amanda opened it, expecting to find a typical employment history. What she found instead was almost nothing. Previous employer, none listed. Education, high school diploma. References, a single name, Carlos Rivera, TechCore's own head of security, who had apparently vouched for Derek personally when he applied for the position. Emergency contact, none. It was as if Derek Monroe had appeared out of thin air 3 years ago, with no past, no connections, no history. The only personal detail was an address in Pilsen, one of Chicago's working-class neighborhoods, in what appeared to be a single room above a laundromat. "Get Carlos in here," Amanda said. 20 minutes later, Carlos Rivera stood in her office, his security uniform crisp, his expression cautious. At 55, Carlos was a former police officer who had seen everything, and his loyalty to TechCore was absolute. You wanted to see me, Ms. Brooks? I want to know about Derek Monroe. You hired him. Carlos's jaw tightened slightly. Is there a problem with his work? No, his work is excellent. I want to know why a man with no employment history, no references except you, and apparently no life outside this building, is giving away almost his entire paycheck to a children's hospital. Carlos was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and careful. Derek asked me never to talk about his past. He wants to be left alone. Carlos, I'm not trying to invade his privacy. I just need to understand why. So you can feel good about having a charity case on your staff? The words stung, but Amanda kept her composure. No, because someone that selfless deserves to be recognized, not ignored. And because something about this doesn't add up. Carlos studied her, weighing his options. Finally, he sighed. Derek Monroe wasn't always a janitor. Before he came here, he was someone important. Someone who made a mistake and lost everything. That's all I can tell you. If you want to know more, you'll have to ask him yourself. The midnight encounter that night. Amanda did something she had never done in her 15 years as CEO. She stayed late. Very late, until the office emptied and the night shift began. At midnight, she walked down to the 15th floor, where she knew Derek would be cleaning. She found him in the break room, carefully wiping down tables, his movements methodical and precise. He looked up when she entered, surprise flashing across his face. Ms. Brooks? Is everything all right? I wanted to talk to you, Derek. Do you have a moment? He set down his cloth, a guarded expression settling over his features. Of course. Is there a problem with my work? No, nothing like that. Your work is excellent. Amanda pulled out a chair and sat down, gesturing for him to do the same. After a moment's hesitation, he did. I'm going to be direct with you, Amanda said. I saw your payroll records. I know you're sending most of your salary to St. Michael's Children's Hospital. I need to understand why. Derek's face went carefully blank. That's my personal business, ma'am. I know. And normally, I wouldn't pry. But Derek, you're living on $600 a month. That's not enough to survive in this city. How are you managing? I manage just fine. Do you eat every day? The question hung in the air. Derek looked away, his jaw working. I eat enough. Amanda felt something crack inside her chest. Why, Derek? Why are you doing this to yourself? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, so quietly she almost missed it, he said, because some debts can't be paid any other way. Before Amanda could respond, Derek stood up, grabbing his cleaning supplies. If that's all, Ms. Brooks, I need to finish my shift. He walked away, leaving Amanda sitting alone in the break room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. But as he left, she noticed something. His hands, the way they moved with such precision and care, those weren't the hands of someone who had always cleaned floors. Those were the hands of someone who had once held something far more precious. And in that moment, Amanda Brooks made a decision. She was going to find out the truth about Derek Monroe, whether he wanted her to or not. The late-night research back in her office, Amanda opened her laptop and began searching. St. Michael's Children's Hospital, Chicago. She found their website, read about their programs. Their mission to provide care for terminally ill children regardless of their family's ability to pay. It was a noble cause, but it didn't explain Derek's connection. She dug deeper, searching through medical journals, hospital staff directories, news archives, and then, at 2:30 in the morning, she found it. A news article from 4 years ago with a headline that made her breath catch. Promising young surgeon loses license after controversial decision during emergency surgery. The article featured a photo. A younger man in surgical scrubs, his eyes tired but determined, standing outside a hospital. The caption read, Dr. Derek Monroe, 24 faces medical board investigation. Amanda read the article 3 times, her hands trembling. Derek Monroe hadn't always been a janitor. He had been a pediatric surgeon, one of the youngest and most talented in the country, until the night everything fell apart. She looked at the clock. 3 a.m., down below, somewhere in this building. Derek Monroe was finishing his shift, mopping floors and emptying trash cans. A man who had once saved lives, now cleaning up after those who barely noticed he existed. Amanda closed her laptop and stared out at the Chicago skyline. Tomorrow, she would learn the whole story. Tomorrow, she would understand why a gifted surgeon had become invisible. But tonight, all she could think about was the quiet courage it took to give away everything when you had already lost it all. The confrontation. Amanda Brooks didn't sleep that night. By the time dawn broke over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, she had read everything she could find about Dr. Derek Monroe. Medical school transcripts showing exceptional grades. Newspaper articles praising his innovative surgical techniques. Letters from grateful parents whose children he had saved. And then, the incident that had destroyed it all. At 8 a.m., she made a call to St. Michael's Children's Hospital and asked to speak with the chief of surgery. By 9 a.m., she was sitting in Dr. Raymond Foster's office. A modest room filled with children's drawings and thank you cards, pinned to every available surface. Dr. Foster was a man in his late 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. He studied Amanda with curiosity as she explained why she was there. "You want to know about Derek Monroe?" he said. "Not as a question, but as a statement. I need to understand what happened to him, and why he's giving you almost all his money." Dr. Foster leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled together. "What Derek is doing is keeping 8 children alive. Children who would otherwise have no hope. He's funding experimental treatments, medications that insurance won't cover, procedures that most hospitals won't attempt. He's doing it anonymously, through monthly payments that he can barely afford." But why? What happened 4 years ago? The doctor's expression grew somber. 4 years ago, Derek Monroe was the most gifted pediatric surgeon I had ever worked with. He had instincts that couldn't be taught, hands that could perform miracles. But one night, he was faced with an impossible choice. The story unfolds there. Foster stood and walked to his window, looking out at the hospital grounds below. It was a Friday night in March. We had 2 emergency cases arrive within minutes of each other. Both children, both critical. One was a 7-year-old girl named Rebecca, daughter of a state senator. She had been in a car accident. The other was a 9-year-old boy named Miguel, from the South Side, no insurance, no family connections. He had been shot in a gang crossfire. Amanda listened, her heart already sinking. Standard protocol says you treat based on severity and likelihood of survival. Rebecca's injuries were serious but manageable. Miguel's were catastrophic. By every medical guideline, Derek should have prioritized Rebecca. But he looked at Miguel's scans and saw something everyone else missed. A way to save him, but only if he operated immediately. He chose Miguel, Amanda whispered. Dr. Foster nodded. He spent 6 hours in surgery with that boy while Rebecca waited. He saved Miguel's life, performed one of the most brilliant surgical procedures I've ever witnessed. But Rebecca's condition deteriorated while she waited. By the time another surgeon could get to her, it was too late. She died on the table. The weight of those words filled the office like smoke. Amanda could barely breathe. The senator demanded Derek's license, accused him of negligence, of making a choice based on bias rather than medical judgment. The board investigated for months. Technically, Derek had violated protocol. But morally, ethically, he had made the only choice he could live with. In the end, they suspended his license indefinitely. He could have fought it, appealed, but he didn't. He just disappeared. Until he showed up at TechCore, Amanda said. Until Carlos Rivera, an old family friend, gave him a chance to survive. And Derek has spent every day since trying to make up for the life he couldn't save by saving as many others as he can. Meeting Tommy Deere? Foster stood. There's someone I think you should meet, if you have time. He led Amanda through the hospital corridors, past rooms filled with beeping machines and worried parents, till they reached the pediatric oncology ward. In a corner room, decorated with superhero posters and model airplanes, a thin boy with a bright smile sat up in bed, working on a puzzle. "Tommy Chen, this is Amanda Brooks," Dr. Foster said. "Amanda, this is one of Derek's kids." Tommy looked up, his 12-year-old face pale but animated. "Are you a friend of Derek's?" I'm getting to know him, Amanda said carefully, pulling up a chair. Dr. Foster tells me Derek helps you. Tommy's face lit up. Derek's the best. He comes to visit every week on his day off. He brings me puzzles and tells me stories about when he used to be a doctor. He's paying for my treatment, you know. The experimental kind that might actually work. What's wrong with you, Tommy? Amanda asked gently. Neuroblastoma. It's a type of cancer. Pretty rare. The normal treatments weren't working, but Dr. Foster found this new therapy trial. Super expensive, though. My mom couldn't afford it. She works 3 jobs already. But then, Derek started paying for everything. He won't even let us thank him properly. Amanda felt tears prickling her eyes. He sounds like a good man. He's a hero, Tommy said simply. He says he's not, but he is. Last week, I asked him why he helps kids he doesn't even know. You know what he said? What? He said every child deserves a chance to grow up, and if he can give that chance, then maybe the universe might forgive him for the one he couldn't save. I don't really understand what he meant, but it made him look really sad. The second encounter that evening, Amanda returned to Tech Core and waited until Derek's shift started. She found him on the 18th floor, carefully dusting computer monitors in the programming department. We need to talk, she said without preamble. Derek's shoulders tensed. Ms. Brooks, I really need to work. I went to St. Michael's today. I met Dr. Foster. I met Tommy. Derek's hand stilled on the monitor. Slowly, he turned to face her, and for the first time, she saw past his careful mask. In his eyes, she saw exhaustion, grief, and something that might have been fear. You had no right, he said quietly. You're right? I didn't. But Derek, what you're doing, living on almost nothing, working a job that's so far beneath your abilities, sacrificing everything, it's not sustainable. You're going to burn out. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're punishing yourself for a choice that any decent human being would have made. You saved a child's life, and another child died because of it. The words burst from him like a dam breaking. Rebecca Porter was 7 years old. She liked ballet and had a dog named Biscuit. She died because I chose to save someone else. How do you live with that, Ms. Brooks? How do you look in the mirror knowing you played God and got it wrong? You didn't get it wrong. You made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. Derek laughed bitterly. That's what my lawyer said during the hearing. That's what my friends said before they stopped calling. That's what my family said before they realized I was never going back to being who I was. But none of them were there. None of them saw her parents' faces when we told them their daughter was gone. He sank down into one of the office chairs, his head in his hands. Amanda sat beside him, not touching, just present. For a year after it happened, I couldn't sleep, Derek continued, his voice raw. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw both of them. Miguel, alive and laughing, growing up because I saved him, and Rebecca gone forever because I didn't. The board took my license, but I had already decided I would never operate again. Because how could I? How could I ever trust my judgment after that? So you became a janitor, so I became invisible. No life or death decisions. No choices that could destroy families. Just floors to clean and trash to empty. Simple, safe, and done. Every dollar I earn goes to kids who deserve better than what this world gives them. The breaking. Point Amanda reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. I had my legal team pull the full records from your case. There's something you need to know. Derek didn't look up. I know everything I need to know. No, you don't. The senator who went after you, he had connections to 3 board members. He pressured them. There were emails, phone calls, threats about funding. Your case wasn't about medical judgment. It was about politics and revenge. It doesn't change what happened. It changes everything. Derek, you were railroaded. Multiple surgeons have reviewed your case since then. They all agree you made the right call based on the information you had. Miguel would have died in minutes without immediate intervention. Rebecca had a fighting chance with another surgeon. You played the odds the way you were trained to. She still died. Yes, and that's tragic. But it wasn't your fault. Medicine isn't perfect. You can't save everyone. But you could save some, and you were brilliant at it. Dr. Foster told me you were the best he'd ever seen." Derek finally looked at her, his eyes red. "Why do you care? Why are you doing this?" Amanda took a deep breath. "Because a week ago I was going through the motions of running a company, making money, building an empire, and feeling absolutely nothing. I had forgotten what it meant to care about something beyond profit margins. And then I saw your payroll record, and I saw someone who had lost everything but was still giving. You reminded me that there's more to life than success. There's purpose. There's sacrifice. There's meaning." She placed the folder on the desk between them. "There's a petition in here signed by 62 doctors calling for your license to be reinstated. Dr. Foster started it 6 months ago. He's been trying to find you to tell you, but you've been hiding too well. They want you back, Derek. The medical community wants you back." Derek stared at the folder as if it might bite him. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because what if I freeze? What if I'm in surgery and I remember Rebecca and my hands stop working? What if I make another choice that costs someone their life? Then you'll be human. Like every other doctor who's ever lived. But Derek, right now, children are dying who you could save. Tommy Chen has a 60% chance with his current treatment. But Dr. Foster says there's an experimental surgery that could raise it to 90%. No one in Chicago will perform it. It's too risky, too new. Except the doctor who designed it recommended you specifically before all this happened. He still believes in you." Derek's hands trembled as he reached for the folder. "Tommy's surgery? It's all in there. Details, timelines, everything. But it has to happen in the next 2 months, or his cancer will spread too far. He needs you, Derek. Not your money. You." The weight of choice for a long moment. Derek sat in silence, the folder unopened in his hands. Outside, the city lights began to flicker on as dusk settled over Chicago. "I don't know if I can do it," he whispered finally.
"I know.
"But I also know you're the kind of person who tries impossible things. You operated for 6 hours straight to save a child everyone else had written off. You live on $600 a month so 8 kids can have a future. You show up every week to visit a boy who isn't even your patient, just so he won't feel alone. That's not someone who gives up, Derek. That's someone who fights, even when it costs them everything." Amanda stood, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Read the folder. Think about it. And know that whatever you decide, you have people in your corner now. You're not alone anymore." She walked toward the elevator, but Derek's voice stopped her. "Ms. Brooks, call me Amanda." "Amanda, why are you really doing this?" "The truth." She turned back, and in her eyes, Derek saw something he recognized. His own pain reflected back at him. "'Cause 5 years ago, I chose my company over my family. I missed my daughter's graduation, my son's baseball games, my husband's birthday. All 4 meetings that could have waited. And one night, my husband took the kids and left. I haven't seen them in 3 years. I built an empire and lost the only things that mattered. So when I see someone who sacrificed everything for the right reasons, I want to help. Maybe if I can give you back your purpose, I can find mine again." The elevator doors closed between them, and Derek was left alone with the folder, the weight of an impossible decision pressing down on his chest outside the window. Somewhere in the city, Tommy Chen was falling asleep, dreaming of the day he would be well enough to go home. And in a cemetery across town, a small gravestone read Rebecca Porter, forever 7. Forever loved. Derek opened the folder and began to read. The path to redemption. He was learning wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about finding the courage to try again despite it. The decision 3 days passed in agonizing deliberation. Derek read the folder Amanda had given him so many times that the pages became worn at the edges. The surgical procedure outlined within was revolutionary. A technique that combined traditional neurosurgery with targeted radiation therapy. It was brilliant, dangerous, and offered Tommy Chen his best chance at survival. It also required skills that Derek hadn't used in 4 years. Hands that had grown accustomed to mops and dusters would need to remember how to hold a scalpel, how to navigate the delicate pathways of a child's nervous system, how to make split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death. On the 4th night, Derek sat in his small room above the laundromat in Pilsen, surrounded by his few possessions. A worn medical textbook he couldn't bring himself to throw away, a photo of his graduating class from medical school, his younger self smiling with hope and ambition, and a newspaper clipping he kept folded in his wallet, the obituary for Rebecca Porter. His phone rang. Carlos Rivera's name flashed on the screen. "You've been avoiding me," Carlos said when Derek answered. "I've been thinking. Amanda told me what she offered you. The chance to be a doctor again." Derek closed his eyes. "I don't know if I can do it, Carlos. What if I fail again?" "You didn't fail the first time, kid. You made a choice. A hard one. And yeah, it didn't turn out the way anyone wanted. But you saved a life that night." Miguel just graduated high school last month. Did you know that? He's going to college. Wants to be a paramedic? That's because of you. But Rebecca's death was a tragedy. But it wasn't your fault. The real question is, are you going to let one tragedy stop you from preventing others? Because right now, there's a 12-year-old boy who needs you, and you're the only one who can help him. After they hung up, Derek pulled out the photo of his medical school class. 25 bright-eyed graduates, ready to change the world. He had been so sure back then, so confident in his abilities. That confidence had died with Rebecca Porter. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop hiding behind a mop and remember why he had become a doctor in the first place. He made the call at midnight. Amanda answered on the first ring, as if she had been waiting. "I'll do it," Derek said. "But I need help. I need to get my license reinstated, and I need to prepare. I haven't performed surgery in 4 years. Consider it done. I'll have my legal team working on the license tomorrow. And I'm going to fund a training program for you. Whatever you need, Amanda. Why are you doing all this? Because sometimes the best investment isn't in companies or products. It's in people. And you're worth investing in, Derek Monroe." The battle for reinstatement the next morning. Amanda called an emergency meeting with TechCore's board of directors. In the glass-walled conference room on the 40th floor, she faced 12 skeptical executives who didn't understand why their CEO was suddenly interested in helping a janitor. "We're proposing a new corporate initiative," Amanda announced. "The TechCore Medical Assistance Program. We'll fund medical treatments for children who can't afford them, and we'll work with hospitals to support innovative surgical procedures." Robert Walsh, the chief financial officer, frowned. "Amanda, with all due respect, we're a technology company, not a charity. The merger with Quantum Systems is in a delicate phase. This isn't the time for distractions. This isn't a distraction. It's a mission. And it starts with restoring the medical license of Dr. Derek Monroe." She pulled up Derek's file on the projection screen, showing his credentials, his surgical record, the letters of recommendation from 62 doctors. This man was destroyed by politics and grief. But he spent the last 4 years quietly saving lives with his own money, sacrificing everything for children he doesn't even know. I'm proposing we use our resources, our legal team, our connections, to help him return to medicine. And once he does, he'll lead our new medical program. Maria Santos, one of the newer board members, leaned forward with interest. "You're talking about overturning a medical board decision. That's not easy." "No, it's not. But we have the resources. And more importantly, we have the evidence that his case was tainted by political pressure. The original decision was unjust. We're going to make it right." The vote was closer than Amanda had hoped, but it passed. 7-5. TechCore would throw its considerable weight behind Derek's reinstatement, preparing for surgery over the next 6 weeks. Derek's life transformed. Amanda hired a medical malpractice attorney who specialized in license reinstatement cases. They filed appeals, gathered testimonies, and built an ironclad case that Derek's suspension had been unjust. Meanwhile, Derek began training. Dr. Foster granted him access to St. Michael's Surgical Simulation Lab, where he spent 12 hours a day relearning procedures, rebuilding muscle memory, and confronting his fears. His hands, which had grown soft from janitorial work, developed calluses again from holding surgical instruments. Amanda visited him often, sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes just sitting in the observation room and watching him work. She saw his frustration when a practice incision wasn't perfect, His determination when he ran the same simulation for the 10th time, his slow return of confidence. "You're getting better," she said one evening as Derek emerged from the simulation lab, exhausted. "I'm getting faster." "That's not the same as better." "Tommy came by today. He wanted to see where you've been practicing." Derek's expression softened. "How is he?" "Scared? Hopeful?" he asked, "when you're coming back to visit?" "I've been so focused on preparing I haven't had time." "Make time. He needs to see that you still care about him as a person, not just as a patient." That night, Derek returned to the hospital and found Tommy in his room, thinner than before, his skin pale. But when the boy saw Derek, his face lit up with pure joy. "There you are! I thought you forgot about me." Derek pulled up a chair, guilt washing over him. "Never. I've just been busy preparing for something important. Your surgery stuff. Dr. Foster told me you might be my doctor for real now. Everything works out?" "Yes." Tommy was quiet for a moment, then said, "I'm scared, Derek." "Me too, buddy." "Really? But you're the grown-up." "The doctor." Derek took Tommy's small hand in his. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the hard thing, even when you're terrified." "And yeah, I'm scared. Scared I'll mess up. Scared I'll let you down. But I'm going to try anyway, because you deserve the best chance possible." Tommy squeezed his hand. "I trust you. My mom says you're a good person. That's what matters most." Those simple words, spoken with complete faith, nearly broke Derek. This child facing death trusted him completely. The weight of that trust was crushing and liberating at the same time. The hearing 8 weeks after Amanda's initial discovery, Derek stood before the Medical Licensing Board of Illinois. The hearing room was formal and intimidating, with wood-paneled walls and a long table where 7 board members sat in judgment. Amanda sat in the gallery, along with Dr. Foster, Carlos Rivera, and dozens of doctors who had signed the petition for Derek's reinstatement. Even Miguel, the boy Derek had saved 4 years ago, was there, now 18 and strong. The board chairman, Dr. Patricia Williams, reviewed the case file with a stern expression. "Dr. Monroe, you were suspended 4 years ago for deviation from standard medical protocol, resulting in the death of a patient. Why should we reinstate your license now?" Derek stood, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Because I made a choice based on medical judgment, not negligence. I assessed 2 critical patients and determined that one required immediate intervention to survive. I followed my training and my conscience. Was I wrong? In hindsight, perhaps. But I would make the same choice again because the alternative was certain death for a child I knew I could save. Even knowing the consequences? Even knowing the consequences? Because medicine isn't about playing it safe. It's about fighting for every life with everything you have." Senator Porter, Rebecca's father, stood up from the back of the room. The gallery fell silent. He walked slowly to the front, his face lined with grief that for years hadn't erased. "Dr. Monroe," he said, his voice tight, "you took my daughter from me." Derek met his eyes, not flinching. "Yes, sir, and I will carry that burden every day of my life. I cannot give you back what you lost. But I can promise that I will honor Rebecca's memory by saving every child I possibly can. Your daughter deserved better. They all do." Senator Porter stood there for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I spoke with the other surgeon that night, the one who operated on Rebecca after you. He told me that by the time he got to her, the damage was already done. That even if you had gone to her first, she likely wouldn't have survived." The board didn't include that in their report. He turned to face the board members. "I blame Dr. Monroe because I needed someone to blame. But the truth is, my daughter died because of an accident, not because of his choice. I've spent 4 years destroying a good man's career because I was in pain. That was wrong. I'm asking you to reinstate his license, because other children deserve the chance mine didn't get." The room erupted in murmurs. Dr. Williams called for order. Then the board members conferred in whispered conversation. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "Dr. Monroe, this board has reviewed your case, the new evidence presented, and the testimonies provided. We find that your original suspension was influenced by factors beyond pure medical judgment. Effective immediately, your medical license is reinstated with a 6-month probationary period. Welcome back to medicine, Dr. Monroe. The surgery 2 weeks later, Derek stood outside operating room 3 at St. Michael's Children's Hospital, scrubbing his hands with methodical precision. Through the window, he could see Tommy Chen being prepared for surgery. The boy's small form dwarfed by the equipment surrounding him. Dr. Foster appeared beside him. Ready? No, but I'm going anyway. Good answer. You've got the best team in the city backing you up. And you've got something more important than skill. You've got heart. Amanda appeared in the observation gallery above, giving Derek a thumbs up through the glass. Carlos stood beside her, along with Tommy's mother. Koo clutched a rosary in trembling hands. Derek entered the operating room. The moment he stepped to the table, something shifted inside him. The fear didn't disappear, but it transformed into focus. His hands, which had trembled during practice runs, became steady. The surgical instruments felt natural again, extensions of his will. Let's give this kid his life back, he said to his team. The surgery lasted 9 hours. It was delicate, dangerous work. Navigating through Tommy's nervous system to remove the cancerous tissue while preserving crucial neural pathways. Derek worked with the precision of a watchmaker and the determination of a warrior, remembering every lesson, every technique, every moment that had led him to this point. When he finally removed the last of the tumor and began the closing procedure, Dr. Foster spoke from where he was assisting. That was the most beautiful surgery I've ever witnessed. Welcome back, Derek. New beginnings. Tommy's recovery took weeks, but when he finally opened his eyes and smiled at Derek, it was worth every moment of doubt and fear. Did you win? Tommy asked groggily. You both did, buddy. You fought hard. 3 months later, Tommy Chen walked out of St. Michael's Children's Hospital. Cancer-free. His mother crying tears of joy. The local news covered the story not just of Tommy's miraculous recovery, but of the surgeon who had clawed his way back from disgrace to save lives again. TechCore's medical assistance program officially launched with Derek as its director. The program would fund experimental treatments, support promising young doctors, and ensure that no child was denied care because of cost. On the program's opening day, Derek stood on the hospital steps with Amanda, watching children play in the healing garden they had funded. You know, Amanda said, 6 months ago, I thought I knew what success looked like. Money, power, influence. But watching you save Tommy, seeing the joy on his mother's face, that's real success. That's what matters. Derek smiled. You helped make this possible. You took a risk on a janitor who had given up on himself. You were never just a janitor. You were always a doctor. You just needed to remember who you were. In the garden below, Tommy chased butterflies with the other children, his laughter floating up like music. Derek thought of Rebecca Porter, of the weight he would always carry. But now, alongside that weight, he carried something else. Hope, purpose, a second chance. Senator Porter approached them, Cade, walking with the slow gait of someone who had aged beyond his years. Dr. Monroe, Ms. Brooks, I wanted to thank you. For what? Derek asked. For showing me that forgiveness isn't weakness. My wife and I, we've started a foundation in Rebecca's name. We're funding pediatric surgery research, trying to make sure her death means something. He extended his hand. Derek took it, and in that handshake, 4 years of pain began to heal, as the sun set over Chicago. Casting the city in gold, Derek Monroe realized something profound. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past or forgetting mistakes. It was about carrying those lessons forward, about transforming grief into purpose, about having the courage to try again even when you had every reason to give up. He had cleaned floors for 3 years, invisible and forgotten. But in that invisibility, he had learned humility. In that sacrifice, he had found meaning. And now, stepping back into the light, he carried both the weight of what he had lost and the strength of what he had become. Tommy ran up to them, breathless and beaming. Dr. Derek, watch me. I can run again. And as Derek watched that child race across the grass, alive and free, he finally understood. Some debts could never be fully repaid. Some wounds would never completely heal. But every day, every choice, every life saved was a step towards something that looked a lot like forgiveness. Behind him, Amanda squeezed his shoulder. Carlos grinned from his security post nearby. Dr. Foster gave a proud nod from the hospital entrance. And somewhere, in the vast mystery beyond life, Derek hoped that Rebecca Porter was smiling too. The night janitor had become a healer again. And in that transformation, everyone around him had discovered their own second chances, their own redemptions, their own reasons to believe that kindness, courage and compassion could change the world, one life at a time.